Let me know if you can hear me good enough. My name is Ann Heydrich Fox, and I was married to Dan's father. And it's interesting how I had him in the younger years, and how I can prelude my stories with following through with everything everybody else has said, keeps in line with who Dan was. It seems to me he had a problem going to school. And so the school finally called us one day and said he hadn't been attending classes. So his father decided, well, I'll take care of that. I'll just take him to school. 4 days later, the school called and said he wasn't coming to class. Well, he was walking in the front door and out the back door. And we caught on to him, and we only had one thing at the time that we could really hold over his head, and it made a difference. And that was his driver's license. He loved that driver's license. So anyway, that was the younger years. And then, after his father had passed, he had a terrible accident at Rolling Valley Mall in Northern Virginia. And prior to that, he was living with me still. And we had a little difference in opinion on some things. So he moved out. And then in October, November, I got the word that he'd had this accident. And so I went to see him. And when he was out of the hospital after 3 months, he came back and he stayed with me. And he was not the Dan that didn't walk through the schoolyard door or didn't go to school. He was, there was a difference. And I used to cook a lot. And one of the things I made, and this is before bread machines, I used to make homemade rolls. Well, you gotta roll these things like for 8 or 9 minutes. So if he was home, he would always do it for me because he had really strong, big hands. And then I did some catering. He was always with me if I had a project helping me. So anyway, he stayed with me, and then he met Trish, and then Sarah was born, and I took them, Trish and Sarah, home from the hospital. But then he met, later on, a few years later, he met Teresa. And he had this small little, not little, but like the older salt box houses from like the 40s or early 50s. And he said to me, he said, I restored the house, and it was right before Carter was born, I think. And so I went. I lived further south than he did, so I could pass by. I have never in my life seen anything. And the shame of it is that a young man like that, somebody should have tapped into his creativity. It was amazing. And the colors of the paint, the detail, the everything. He'd be on HGTV today along with his Harley, I'm sure. But he was extremely creative. And I told him so. He said, wait a minute, Annie. He said, you haven't seen the best part. I said, okay. So we go into this 4-car garage, and he's got everything neat, tidy. You could eat off the floors. He's got stereo speakers hanging from the ceiling. I think he had a refrigerator and a TV in there. And he had his dad's old red metal toolbox. And he was so proud to have that to go with his garage. And I can't tell you, it was the creativity. Well, then they came for Christmas to my house several times. Sarah and Dan and Teresa came for other dinners. Carter and Teresa and Dan came for an Easter dinner one year. But the last visit I had with him was back, but I had been in the hospital, and I was in between hospital visits. And it was the first day he had driven. So he and Teresa, he made the effort to come see me because I wasn't able to go to see him during this whole time he was sick because I have an immune system problem and I can't be around. So I was very sad that I couldn't go, but my daughter went for me and we tried to keep up with him and keep up with Teresa. But I love you all. You were my second family that just, and he and I share the same birthday. So we may not see each other for 8 months or whatever, but bingo, we're right there on the phone, whether it's a call or a text. And I tell you what, I'm completely taken back by all these friends that he had. Yes, he was grumpy. I'd more call him grouchy. But he would be so pleased to know that there's so many wonderful people here. All right, thank you very much.